So I wanted to do a couple of videos to go over the gun. I'll break it up into several videos to make it easier to send. But basically what the gun is, it's based on a VSR-10 loading architecture, but the stock is an SRS Silverback that I've hollowed out. And the internal upper is composed of two M4 handguards that I've joined here, milled and joined together. Has a carbon fiber inner barrel. And the gun, typically if it was a VSR-10, the bolt is located inside here as a Wolverine Bolt. Typically you would have a bolt action, but what I've done is I integrated a charging rod, a spring-loaded charging rod, into the back of the bolt, the Wolverine Bolt. So you cycle the round by pulling back on the forward charging handle. So this allows you to never take your eye out of the optic. So you can cycle it and fire as fast as you can fire and pull the charging handle. So I disassembled it a little bit just to kind of go quickly through how to disassemble it. So the first thing you want to do is it has these cap bolts, Allen cap bolts, typical Airsoft style. So you want to undo all of those. What I would recommend is draw the gun on a piece of cardboard, poke you some holes, and just drop the bolts in because some are cut to size. So we'll take these out. I've got a little diagram over here I'm putting the bolts with. And it's very simple. And then underneath your Picatinny here, you take a slightly larger diameter Allen, and that's two cap screws. And that's going to take off the front Picatinny and a clamp, like a washer C-clamp that holds the two halves together of the Silverback. The other thing you want to take off, this integrates into the handguard, is this bolt here. So you want to take that off. So once you've taken those bolts off, and this front one here, it's going to pop out, this will completely come off. And then you'll see the internals of the gun. So this is a fully welded frame here that goes down into the handguard. So it's very, very sturdy. The magazine well is welded. And so get rid of this bolt here. And you can see underneath how I've hollowed out the entire inside. I retained the SRS Silverback mag release just to keep that look underneath. But actually the magazine is a VSR-10 magazine, and that'll fit right there. The Wolverine Bolt uses very little electricity, so here's the lithium. You can play 30 games with this thing, if not more, and it'll go. So that's a 450 milliamp hour pretty new lithium there. The air tube is welded, or is attached to this welded piece that drops down. So the stock and the handguard are welded to the frame, and the upper is bolted to the steel. So this whole thing is extremely rigid, to include the rigidity of an internal carbon fiber outer barrel. So you would also pull this down here. There's a rear takedown screw you would undo. That also ties right into the frame to hold your stock in place. The SR Silverbacks are notorious for losing these, but you'll never lose this one with that captive bolt in there. So once you've done that, you're going to want to flip the gun over and take off one screw on the other side. Sorry, not one screw, two screws. So your back, so I have QD mounts on the handguard, and I remember I talked about the welded frame here. So these two screws, you'll undo these as well, and these tie directly into that welded piece. So your M-lock is extremely, or your QD points are extremely rigid into the whole gun. And I'll pause this for now and take these two screws off. So your QD mount on the back of the gun here is held captive by two nuts that tie into that metal frame that's welded all in place here. So you just need a number 8 wrench, go behind, and you'll be able to take those off. And then the other last piece on this side is this top one, and we took an opposing bolt off on the other side. So this top part actually ties in to an M4 barrel nut, and I used barrel nuts on the inside of the fore-end to hold the inner barrel captive. So the inner diameter of the barrel nut was perfect to house this carbon fiber tube. So I used that to sandwich that barrel so it holds it in place perfectly. There's zero wobble. There's a lot of overlap on either side, so it's seated in there very well. And then I bolted to the actual handguards. You can see these two here, two on the other side. This one's locking that in. So your whole inner barrel assembly is extremely well protected and rigid within here. In order to keep the aesthetics of the SRS Silverback look, I just put some fake nuts on this side. So they're just epoxied in place. And again, you can see where I've milled out the inside to accommodate the custom steel rail and pistol grip frame. I put a little bit of Velcro back there. That's just to hold that battery still to keep down wire fatigue, so that your wiring lasts a long time. Again, these batteries last forever. I bet I've charged that maybe 2-3 times. They hold their charge just for months and months and months. And there's no trigger board. It's just a switch, so you don't have to worry about ripping the battery out every time you get done playing. On this side, there's just Teflon tape, just holding the wiring harness in here. Very neat. Again, didn't want the wiring to move to keep down on wiring fatigue. And you can see the only thing left from an actual VSR-10 is this trigger box here, which I milled out on the inside to make room for the Wolverine Bolt switch. So the trigger is original. And this piece here, if you can see it, this piece here that drops down, it'd be a little complex to fabricate this. So I cut this out of an actual VSR-10 and then mounted it here because it'd be hard to, a little difficult to manufacture that. And that is your mag catch for your magazine. And I'll show you that. So just takes a typical VSR-10 magazine. Again, steel magazine well, very, very sturdy. Just locks into place, and you're good to go. You just cycle fire, very, very quickly. It's almost cheating. So when you're done, you just hit your mag release, pull down your tab, and you're ready to put it into the magazine or store it for later. Now to clean it, for light cleaning, you don't have to tear it down like this. You can leave all the sides on. What you would do is just flip it up and then incrementally run patches down. Don't push it all the way back. Don't push the dirt all the way back. But come in, clean a little bit, change your patch. Go a little deeper, change your patch. Go a little deeper, change your patch. And then when you get to here, you'll actually see the Wolverine Bolt. It's purple. And when you pull the charging handle back, the Wolverine Bolt comes back. So the bolt is housed in an inner carbon fiber housing within the carbon fiber outer barrel. So it's very well protected there. But you'd bring that back, and then you'd run your patch up, and then degrease and get rid of the dust all in there, and you'd be good to go. To take their inner barrel out, or the outer barrel assembly, it's pretty simple as well. Just a few more bolts. You see here that the steel frame that's all integrated into the pistol grip and the rear stock is bolted to the aluminum handguards. It's going to be bolted captive here, and back here, and there's another bolt here. So this thing is very well nailed down to each other. So there's zero movement at all. This is very, very locked up. So your air will come in through here into the steel stock, come down through the inner air tube, and then drop right into your Wolverine Bolt. And then of course here's your wiring harness for your LiPo. And that is about the basics. I wouldn't take it down much further than that on a regular basis. Again, you don't even have to take the sides off. Every now and then, if you want to put a little bit of silicone spray on your spring assembly here just to keep it quiet, and then maybe take an air compressor and just blow the excess off, or maybe put a little bit of silicone here on your charging handle just to make that easy. But it's, I mean, it's extremely easy to move. There's, you know, just, I'm cycling this with my pinky, and you can do that very, very quickly. The gun is very quiet. I quite often have people come up beside me while I'm shooting, and they stop gameplay to talk about how quiet the gun is. So it is quite stealthy. Again, it's the Wolverine Bolt, so there's not a whole lot of you know, it's a closed bolt design, so it's very efficient in its use of air. So if you wanted to take the gun down further than what we have right here, for example, if you want to take the inner barrel out for you know, deep cleaning or to switch it out, what you would do, half the disassembly is very much like a VSR-10. So you have your magazine catch assembly here that ties into the hop-up unit, and it just has a little Phillips head screw, just like VSR-10. So you undo this guy right here, set it aside. Now your hop is free floating in there with the inner barrel. You would then take off these 4 screws here that tie into the steel barrel nut. Again, the steel barrel nut ties right into the aluminum, so extremely sturdy. You would then feed your hop and inner barrel assembly out through the front of the gun. It's going to have a little bit of resistance because I have just commercial barrel spacers in there, and it has the O-rings in order to stabilize the barrel. If you want to take the barrel spacers off, they're captive with tape, so they don't move around when I put it back. But once you have that out, if you want to put a shorter barrel on, you just take your spacers off, position them on a shorter barrel. You know, put your hop, your bucking all back together, and then slide it back in. You would then have more room in here. If you wanted to utilize that room for a mock suppressor, you could even make this gun more spooky quiet than what it already is. So this gun is extremely quiet. If you wanted to take the back out, if you wanted to take the Wolverine Bolt out, again, half that procedure is just like a VSR-10. So what you would do in that case is the bolt is held captive in 2 places. The air hose that comes in, just like a VSR-10, but what's different about this design is the back of the gun, the back of the bolt, has a stainless steel pin that comes into the assembly. And you can see it when I cycle the gun back. There is your Wolverine Bolt, and I encapsulated it in a carbon fiber sleeve that fits within the outer barrel carbon fiber sleeve. And so you'll see a number 7 bolt there. That number 7 bolt is captive to that stainless steel pin. That stainless steel pin is captive by a Chicago screw. So the whole thing is very sandwiched together. There's no movement whatsoever. It's very rock solid. On the front of that loop, so that pin comes down and it has a stainless steel loop on it. And so the charging handle feeds through that loop, and then this nut is captive on the back. On the front of the loop, you have another locking nut that times the distance that the bolt is from the front face of your hop unit. So that is held together again by a locking nut. I wouldn't turn that, I wouldn't mess with it. It's hard to turn, but right now it's timed perfectly. So, but to take the bolt out, all you would do is, again, you would take off the airline, take off your power, take off this nut, and now the Wolverine Bolt is extremely free to come out. But that's what it's doing when you cycle. The front barrel nut is stock. I haven't done anything to that. But the back barrel nut is, it mentioned timing about not moving that front locking nut. The other thing I you'd want to double check if you want to take down the rest of the gun is this back barrel nut. So it is not stock. I cut it out here to allow for the bolt, Wolverine Bolt, to freely move back. So you see that, that's normally continuous, but now you have a groove in there that allows that bolt to cycle. You just want to make sure that's set down in there. That's really about it. There's really no reason to take it down further than that. Basically what you're going to have at that point is just a hollow handguard. If you did want to take out your outer tube for, I don't know, whatever reason, at that point, before you took it out, you could clean the inside. You look right through there. It's just like looking through a tube. So it's very easy to clean. If you wanted to take it down further than that, with the front barrel nut off, you could just drift it forward and pull it out. If you wanted to take it out of the back, you would undo this screw, remove the barrel nut, and then the whole unit could come out the back. What I wouldn't undo at all are these steel reinforcement braces that hold the handguard together. They're on either side. And then one reason I put a riser on here is to add a third support. So this handguard is extremely, they're both tied together very well. You can see the joint there, it's very slightly noticeable. I made sure it was true, filed the metal to make sure it just matched perfectly. But there's zero movement in these two handguards with these 3 points of support. Going up to the Optic, it's a basic UTG, nothing crazy, but does the job for the shots you're going to make with a round ball. So easily make 300, up to probably 320. I've made 320 shots with it. Of course, those aren't conditions have to be just right in order to reach out to that in terms of the wind and the environment. I normally play like at the 300-foot range. I would have it at like at 7. But if I'm looking for like where my hop is failing, I really want to see my BB, go out to like 9. But that's really hard to play at 9, just due to the movement or the zoomed in distance. So I set the gun to level, and I epoxied a level up top. So if you're changing out your bucking and you're looking for inconsistencies in the contact patch on the BB, and it's maybe flying, you think you maybe have a patch problem, you need to check your hop-up unit, you can use this to confirm that your gun is north-south. It has QD points for the Optic, so you can pop that off if you want to for whatever reason. Going back to the cheek rest, this is just a Yankee Hill handguard cover. Put that on there. That keeps your face from getting jacked up on the Picatinny, but it works really well. And the other thing is it fits nicely with the aesthetics of the SRS, kind of retain that look. One thing when you're reassembling it, you want to make sure not to over torque these back two nuts. If you do, you'll notice it, because when you go to charge the gun, you'll notice that it's pinching back there. So it should always be completely free floating. Again, it's very easy to cycle. Cycle it with my pinky again. But if you do feel it binding once you put it together, it's one of these two screws that's just pinching it just a little too tightly. That's really also a testament to the fitment of this, that if you torque it, you're gonna mess up the tolerances. So it is a really good fit back there. It was pretty risky getting these. I got these on e-bike. You can get them for like 80 bucks. And it's just an SRS Silverback body. But I was playing with the VSR-10, and anybody that snipes with a VSR-10 and you got a bunch of guys running around full auto, it's frustrating. You just feel it's such a disadvantage. So what I wanted to do is take a VSR-10 and somehow make it a bullpup. So I started doing research, and that's when I found the SRS Silverback. I didn't want to sink the money into buying an SRS Silverback, so I thought, you know what, I'll make my bullpup. So I took a VSR-10 and shoved it down in here. Once this came in the mail, I was a little nervous, but I started taking measurements and cutting, and I realized I was going to have room to put this down in here. So I didn't lose my 80 bucks and built what is one of one gun in the world. So I've never seen a VSR-10 bullpup, nor a Silverback that's pump action and just super fast. I mean, you can make shots like bam, bam, bam. It's pretty quick. It's almost cheating. So anyway, hope you enjoy it.